Thank you for joining our session today to learn JavaScript with Intuit. So thank you, Intuit, for sponsoring us today. It would not be possible without you. We're so grateful to have a partnership with Intuit because they're able to teach us such amazing topics like JavaScript. So let's go ahead and get started and review our agenda for today. So today's agenda, we'll be reviewing Latina Geeks mission and vision. We'll be meeting the team behind Latina Geeks San Diego. We'll have an introduction from our sponsor, meet the instructor, have an intro to JavaScript, and we will go ahead and get started with our session.
Awesome. Thank you, Susie. So hi, everyone. It's very nice to meet you. My name is Kimber Brookstein. I am one of the leaders for Tech Women at Intuit, which is an internal initiative, which I'll speak a little bit about in a few more slides. But I'm also on the board of Latina Geeks, and I serve as the vice chair of the board. So this organization and this partnership from Intuit to Latina Geeks is super important, and it's one of my passions, and I am super thrilled to bring this workshop to the community. So thank you for having us. Next slide. So this is a slide of our first sponsored event at Intuit. This was, I want to say 2 years ago. It was before COVID. We did an intro to analytics, data analytics workshop that we hosted. And it was the first time we partnered with Latina Geeks, and we got to really learn more about the organization, how we could better serve Latina Geeks within San Diego. And I always just like to include this slide because it was the kickoff of our partnership. So a little bit more about Intuit. In case you haven't heard of us, we are based off the 56 here in San Diego, and we have a campus here. We're also global across the world with 16 locations. And our mission is to power prosperity around the world. And so prosperity has a different definition to everyone. And for us, with the products that we make, it's about creating financial freedom so that you can do more of what you love. So we bring the finances to really our products, to bring ease and confidence to what you're doing so that you can prosper in all ways of life. So that's our mission. And we can go on to the next slide, Susie, just to share a little bit more about who we are. So we are the creators of TurboTax, of QuickBooks, of Mint, and most recently last year, we acquired Credit Karma. So we create software, and our strategy is really based to be around this AI-driven expert platform. And you'll hear that a lot in just how we position our products, how you utilize and interact with us. Everything is based around our AI-driven platform. And we work on mobile, web, and cloud solutions that hopefully help our customers make more money, to eliminate all work, and like I said before, give you the confidence so that you can focus on other things that matter to you in life. So hopefully you've used our products. If not, you can take a look and visit our website to learn more about them. Next slide. These are Intuit's core values, and I like to share these because they really resonate with a lot of the organizations and the work we do outside of the company. So our core values are integrity without compromise, courage, customer obsession, stronger together, and we care and give back. And you'll see that translated internally in our employee experience, externally in how we talk about our work, how we support other organizations, how we fund nonprofits. Basically everything we do and everything we embody all circles back to our values. And that's part of why we love Latina Geeks so much, is because a lot of our values resonate and sit within the goals and mission of Latina Geeks as well. So just wanted to share that. Next slide. Intuit Careers. So if you're interested in learning more, you can visit our website. This is actually perfect timing because we are at the beginning of our fiscal year. So there's lots of jobs posted on our website. So in case you have any questions or looking to make a move, take a look. You can go to the next slide, Susie. We really pride ourselves in making the list and being a really great company culture and a great place to work. So you'll find us on a lot of the lists for best place to work, best place for women to work, best place for mothers, leadership. And so it's really, really just an awesome culture and an awesome place to be. So I like to share that and highlight that as well, because you'll see that passion come through, not only in the work, but in the folks you meet at the company. And hopefully tonight with our instructors and Ruby, who you'll hear from soon as well. Next slide. All right, so Tech Women at Intuit. So this is my passion. This is the initiative that I actually work on and help lead internally. And TWI is an internal initiative that focuses on attracting, retaining, and advancing women in technical roles. So it's a huge passion of mine. I'm a program manager, so everything we do is in service to our employees, everything that I do. And then externally, partnerships with organizations like Latina Geeks really just like help drive our mission of that attracting and supporting underrepresented groups in tech, women in tech, and everything that surrounds just exposure, education, and creating more resources and tools. And so this is from our website. This is all public data. I can share the link for Tech Women at Intuit if you want to learn more. But you know, for the tech industry, the numbers are pretty low, and that's why my team's dedicated to increasing that number. So currently we're at 28% women in tech. Our new data is actually going to be released in 2 weeks, so that has increased, which is awesome. We have 31% women in our executive roles, and we're the #5 Fortune workplace in tech. So that's something we take pride in, and I'll share more about that if you want to learn more. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Next slide. All right, Miss Ruby. So I have the pleasure of introducing Ruby Sherman. She is not only an employee and co-worker of mine, but she's also our site co-chair for our Intuit Latinos network here in San Diego. And she's going to share a little bit more about that. So over to you, Ruby.
Thank you, Kimbra, and thank you, Latinas Geeks, for having us. We're excited to partner with you. I had the opportunity with Kimbra a couple of years ago to experience the first event that we connected on, and I really had a great time. At that time, I had just moved to San Diego, and now, a couple of years later, I'm actually leading our Latinos Network chapter, which is in our San Diego office. So super excited to be here. I believe on a previous session that we hosted with you all, we gave you a little bit of insight about how our Latinos Network strategy works to foster an environment of inclusion and diversity within our organization and how we seek to have impact outside of our organization as well. A follow-up to that is I wanted to cover today a little bit about how we do some of that work and how we organize our employee resource groups. So for any of you who maybe want to take insight back to where you work or think about engaging in this type of activity, if it doesn't already exist in your environment, you can get some insight on how we're accomplishing that. If you could go to the next slide, please. So for us at Intuit, all of our employee resource groups really strive to have a strategy where we can actually have impact across the organization, but it is also equally important that we have impact outside. We really want to make sure that we are contributing to the communities that we're representing internally and externally. For us in the Latinos Network, we are really focused on having committees who drive these initiatives. And so we have all of our chapters globally, and our chapter leaders get together to think about how we bring our networks together globally. Of the last year, with things being very challenging and workforces shifting to work from home in a lot of spaces, we actually found a great opportunity to connect globally versus continue to operate in silos. And we built out committees that drive different initiatives. So we have a communications committee, a community committee, and a membership committee. In these, we strive to give people who are not necessarily leaders of the network chapters, but just members, an opportunity to grow their skills and participate in the network at a different level. So if you are currently a member of an employee resource group at your workplace and you want to think about how to get involved, but you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to fully commit to leadership roles, these are great ways to engage all members of the network. And that really fosters more diversity when it's broad access versus just a few people leading it. We call out what the skills will be when people join these committees and also what our deliverables are. Our communications is really about communicating everything that's going on. So partnering with people like Kimbra about events like this, and making sure that we know that our network members can join these events or they can share them with their networks externally as well. Our community is really about bringing together everyone with the events that we throw, social events. We do things during tax season where we actually go out into the community in places where people may not be as familiar with how to use tax software and actually do live sessions and help them with their taxes. So those are ways we think about giving back externally, and that group helps coordinate that. And then membership, it really is important that all of our members feel welcome and engaged. And so we've done things like figuring out how to use Slack workflows to make sure every member when they join feels welcomed and gets a great experience. And then thinking about things like building gig boards for individual opportunities so that everyone can stay engaged. We've seen a lot of work move forward with this type of committee model to our employee resource group, and it's really starting to build out how we can have even more impact than we've ever had before. So this is some of the ways that we're working internally, and would be happy to chat with anyone at any point if you are in a role where you have some influence on how the employee resource groups are working at your company and you want to share insights or gain insights from what we're doing. We're always happy to share what we're learning. Thank you.
All right, so let's.
I was going to introduce you. I was going to introduce you, Sam, but you can go ahead.
Do it.
With that, I would love to introduce Samantha, who is our awesome instructor, and she is an engineer and part of our core team member of Czech Women at Intuit. I will pass it over to her so she can give a more formal introduction, but that's all. Thank you for joining us, and it's all you, Sam.
Hi, everybody. I'm Samantha. I'm a software engineer at Intuit. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Brazil. So I got my bachelor's in computer science there. I moved here literally 2 years ago for my job at Intuit. And I've been with Intuit not only for my full-time job now, but prior, when I was still attending school in Brazil, I actually did 2 internships with them. And I got to learn the culture and all the stuff. I'm part of the Tech Women Intuit group, the Intuit Latinos network. So yeah, I know all about it. Full-time, internship programs, everything. I got introduced to Latina Geeks actually for the data science. I think it was the data science event that happened last year, or actually before, right before COVID. And I was just helping out like with the event. I did not have much impact as in what I'm doing right now, like presenting to you guys. And I loved the community. So Kimbra, oh, hey, we had this opportunity. Cool, let's do it. And I love JavaScript. It's my favorite language. I don't know how many of you, feel free to use the reactions with Zoom. How many of you programmed or have programmed before? You can use the, okay, cool. Cool, I see a few. Awesome. All right, so if you have programmed before, then this is gonna be still pretty like useful because each language has their own benefits. And so for this one in specific, we're gonna do a hands-on, like I want you guys to download the code and add some tweaks to it. But before we do that, I wanna give an introduction about what JavaScript is. So next slide, please. Oh, all right. So this is the agenda specific for the workshop, like the technical workshop. And I'm going to start like what's JavaScript for those that I see that don't know how to program or have not programmed before. So it's going to be a very basic. And then the history, the story for JavaScript, the advantages, the limitations, and then finally, the most exciting thing, the hands-on. So feel free to like ask questions in the chat. I'm here to support you, and no, I'm learning every day, even here. And then with that, next slide. What is JavaScript? Can anyone talk on this call? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what is JavaScript? First, I added some bullet points. The first is a programming language designed for web pages. I'm sure all of you use the web page to sign up to this event. Like a web page is simply like a document that you can see through the browser, any browser, Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer. I don't know who uses Internet Explorer still, but there are a few of those. It is embedded directly into HTML pages. Oh, before I go to the second bullet point, if you consider this image on the right side, so it just shows the structure, the three main elements of a web page. It's HTML, which represents the content and structure. So basically, just the raw part, like the content, what is written, what is in there. The CSS gives the presentation part, just the looks. So like you can add the font, change the color, change the background color, change the border or whatever. And then JavaScript adds the behavior. So that's where the font starts. I personally don't like to deal with CSS and HTML. I like the JavaScript part. So yeah, with JavaScript, you can add a dynamic display, widgets, user interaction, click to open a pop-up. Yeah, and Fab, you're totally right. CSS is kind of the clothing and accessories. So yeah, JavaScript is embedded directly into HTML pages. It's an interpreted client-side event-based language. So what does it mean? By event-based programming language, that means that the flow of the program is determined by like events such as clicking or key presses. So if you click in a page, that's an event. So JavaScript is going to be able to recognize that. It is dynamic, lightweight, in a case-sensitive language. So for the next slide, I want you guys and girls can you go to the next slide, please? Tell me which one is which, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the first one, the little white skeleton, what does it represent? If you think of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, cool, yeah, is the contents, the raw, the base, and then the looks. What would be the second one? Right, see, that's easy, you guys already pro. And then the third one, of course, the third one, the last is JavaScript. So we are here all programmers. We're coding, that's a behavior. So that's yeah, smart girls here. That's the JavaScript part of it. So next slide, you got it right. First is HTML, like I said, the content, CSS, the looks. And the third one, the programming, like the girl coding, it's the behavior. Next slide. So a little bit about the history for JavaScript. Sometimes we don't dive into much of the history when we are learning programming languages. We want to like go to the hands-on part right away. But I thought that would be interesting to put in here. So JavaScript was created by Brendan Eich, co-founder. He's the co-founder of the Mozilla browser. And in 1995, I don't know, some of you were born at that year, before, after, you know. I was born in 1995, so JavaScript is as old as me. It was inspired by Java, Scheme, and Self. So funny thing, it's many people think that JavaScript is the same as Java. It's not. No, not at all. Not at all. But it was inspired by Java. So JavaScript was originally called Mocha, and then LightScript, and then finally they decided to rename that JavaScript. The general purpose of JavaScript had been embedded in web browsers. So like any browser that you open, it's already available there. So the ECMA 262, which is European computer, I think we're not gonna remember that. Specification, define a standard version of as JavaScript. So like, I don't know if you heard of some terms on like on Twitter, people talking about, oh, ES6 was released with this cool feature. So the ES comes from this ECMA 262 specification. So the latest official version of JavaScript is the ES6, which was released in June 2015. I remember very well the boom, like people were talking about TypeScript, all around that time. And next slide. So yeah, JavaScript is executed on the client side. It's a relative easy language, which like if you know English, that should be good for you to learn. Just like Python. I saw some people say that they programmed in Python. Python is also pretty easy. It has a great easy language, easy syntax. Create interactivity on this one, and by that, what does it mean? We can create interfaces that react when the user hovers with a mouse or when they click something, or you just add more interactivity between the page and the user. And the richer in JavaScript when you use JavaScript, you can add much more richer interfaces. So you can use JavaScript to include like drag and drop components, sliders. What would be another example? If you guys, girls, can reply there. What would be another example for adding a cool interface item to a page? Other than sliders, yeah, animations. Yep, that works. Progress bar, perfect. Pop-ups, yep, everything you do. Basically, the whole page, the whole fun of a page, it's through JavaScript. Visitors, yep, you can, yep. Okay, next slide. There are a few limitations though. So JavaScript does not allow, we cannot write to files on the server without the help of a server-side script. One of a server-side script example would be Ajax. It cannot access backend databases without a server-side script, just like Ajax. It cannot read from or write to files in the client. And the reason for that, it's because of security. And it does not have multi-threading like other languages support. Cool, next. Now, the hands-on part. Does everybody here have GitHub? If you don't, that's fine. The link, Brittany just posted in the link to join the GitHub and create an account. It should be super easy, super cool, Alejandra, that you created today. It's going to be very useful. Like, whatever you're going to learn, use GitHub to show off everything you create. Cool. Okay, so what I want you to do, I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Okay. First, I want to show what we're going to do. It's pretty basic. It's just adding a behavior to a web page using, of course, JavaScript. So we're going to turn this page here. I was thinking about adding like a red color instead of green, but it turns more like light. So we're going to turn this page like a quick to-do list into this one. When you click here, ta-da! You know, when you use Twitter, they have like option to give you like a dark mode or light mode. That's it. So we're going to add this functionality. And at the end, when we finish that task, we are going to click here and task achieved. So that's going to be our hands-on activity for today. I want someone high level speaking, what would be the first step to, like, you don't need, forget about GitHub or anything right now. What would be the first step so we can switch from this to this layout here. So clicking a button, it's an event, right? Just like I described. So clicking, rolling, rolling over, hovering something, it's an event in JavaScript. So when we click a button here, JavaScript is gonna, oh, okay, this is an event. What do I do? What should happen when this event is triggered? Oh, okay, I wanted to change the color of the background. So we go there, we use CSS, because CSS is the looks part. Use CSS to do that transition. And then, yeah, this is the high level explanation for that. I want you all to go to GitHub here. I'm gonna share this link. On a chat. I want you to go over there and clone the code. If you don't know how to clone the code, you can just come in here. If you don't know exactly how to clone it, you can use the download feature from GitHub and download the zip folder. I give 1-2 minutes for that. Let me know if anyone is having trouble. This is a pretty casual, hands-on workshop. So if you have an issue, just speak up, or you can even share your screen if you want to show what issue you're having. Okay, see some thumbs up. Anyone having issues with that? This one that we just shared in the channel. So I'm gonna share again. This is the link that you should see when you open the page. Cool. I am gonna clone that. If you wanna use you can download the folder in your local machine. So when you click here, it's gonna, download in zip. And then you can then unzip the content. And then if you have any text editor to edit that folder, open that folder in any text editor that you have, or as we call it, IDE. Once you open that, you should see something like, you should see something like this. So inside the folder, you're gonna have the index HTML file, the main.css, and this README file. We're gonna ignore this README file, but for now we have only 2 files. If you remember the index, what I mentioned earlier, the index page represents the content, right? The raw, the structure, like that little skeleton on the second slide. I think it was second, third. The main.css represents the looks. So here, this is where I define the color. So that bright green is right here. And then the white for the font I define here. The black for everything else is here. And then we are not gonna worry much about CSS. So that's why I have it ready for you all, because we wanna focus only in the behavior part, which is using JavaScript, right? Everybody following so far? It's totally fine if you're not. We're here to learn and share knowledge. I think what makes a good, I don't know, candidate for Intuit, it's like asking questions and, not being, just go for it. We're never, okay, not sure how to open the file. So you are were you able to download the folder?
Yes. So I see the folder. I opened the file or folder, and then it has three. It says index, main, and readme.
Yep.
But each one has a different like icon, I guess. So the index shows like if I can open it in Chromebook.
Oh, so are you able to open the whole folder with everything so we can edit the content of the folder? So do you see here how I have all the three files available if I want to edit?
Let me see. Sorry, my screen is on top of yours. No, I guess I do. I do see the zip, and then I see the folder itself. So should I try to just open it up? Maybe in Explorer.
Do you want to share your screen? We have a few minutes. It's totally fine.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to, hold on anybody and mute.
Oh no, it's totally fine because others might be facing the same issue. Yeah, don't be sorry at all. Thank you for asking question.
Yeah, it doesn't allow me to share my screen.
No? Oh, okay. All right. So, what text editor are you using?
What do you mean by that with text editor?
So, do you see this software that I'm using here to make changes in my file?
Mm-hmm.
This is a text editor.
Oh, okay. So I think I do have, let me see. It says more in the,
you might have,
I do have Notepad.
Yeah, use Notepad because I think Notepad is available on Mac, Windows, everywhere. I'm using VS Code. It's my favorite.
Okay, so I did open Notepad, but then when I go to open a Notepad and I go to the location, it doesn't show me the file. Maybe I have to copy it somewhere else outside of the zip. Let me try.
Yeah, I think if you let me see if there's Notepad on. Oh, I only have Notepad on Windows, but I think with so Valerie is saying you can use text edit app on which operation system are you using? Windows or Mac or Linux?
Windows. Yeah, I do have Windows.
So you can open Notepad, and I think if you open a Notepad, there's probably an option like this, file, and then open. Is that right, Valeria? I don't have Notepad here. Yep.
I see it now, so I'm going to try to open it and see if that works. So I went to Notepad, and then I went to File and Open, and I'm going to click on the folder that says, Latina Geeks main, and see what happens.
Okay, so let's do this. If you don't get to get this working by any means, at the end of the session we can have, I guess you can share with me, can allow you to share at the end. But yeah,
sounds good.
Diana, she's also saying right click where it says open with, and then choose the option Notepad. I'm gonna follow with the session, but at the end, if you are not able still, we can do that to make it work for you. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so assuming that most or some of you, or even if you don't, we can see a little bit at the end for we have Q&A time. We can figure that out. But for now, I'm gonna follow with the remaining of the session. So I have the content here. This one represents this folders here. So like if I do any changes, let's see. I'm gonna add awesome task list for awesome Latina Geeks. I refresh. Oops. Oh, sorry, not open the right one. Yeah.
So I have a question. I downloaded the file, but I'm not sure if it opened the right one. I can share my screen.
Let's do that. I guess at the end now, for just so we can move on. But I think if you right click on a folder and then open with, you are gonna see all the files on it. But yeah, let's do it at the end of the session. Okay.
I only see one file, the Latina Geeks. That's all I see.
Did you unzip the folder? You need to unzip the folder. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this should be the one here. I'm gonna share again. But let's do it at the end of the session. I can help you specifically. But going back here for the index, so if this is the content, right, the HTML part that I mentioned. So if I do any changes here, task list for awesome Latina Geeks, and yay, if I save it, the change, and refresh the page, yeah, we can see that. But we don't want to deal with that yet. We want to add the behavior, right? So the first step to get to this output here, let's add a button. Let's add a button to this. So that way, when we click on that button, it's going to change the color. So the first step is I'm going to add div here, and then button, and then class. Okay, yes, I can do that. Let's see, better? Cool, okay. So I add a button called BTN here, and then I'm going to start with dark because the screen is light, right? So we want to, so when we add this here, now let me refresh the page. Ta-da! But the button does not do anything yet, right? Because it does not have any behavior attached to it. So like I click it, nothing happens because that's just the raw part, just the content. Now to add the JavaScript part, remember when I said that JavaScript is embedded on HTML? So what does it mean? We can literally just add this code here, script type JavaScript. And then start adding stuff here. Okay, but because I like, and that's a good coding. Oh, I see someone raise their hand.
Yes.
So adding the JavaScript embedded to HTML. So we have an HTML file, that's what I'm editing, and I'm adding the JavaScript to it. Now, a good code practice is actually separate files. So if I add a bunch of code here, it's going to be like HTML mixed with JavaScript, and we don't want that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an app.js file, and that's where I'm going to put all the JavaScript code. Instead of using this here, I'm going to just reference that source app.js. That's all I need to do. Now, everything that I write here, it's gonna.
I'm sorry, Samantha, was that an actual, like, it's app.js as a file, or is it a folder? Because I know, okay, it's a file, okay.
Yes.
And then if it's multiple, like if you're working on a big project, you would have filed folders, right, for your CSS and then your Java and then your index on the outside and pages on the inside, right?
Yes, yes. But
Okay,
because
awesome.
this is like very small,
Okay.
it's totally fine to have only those 3 files.
Okay, and then so those, like when you're working on your, because that's one thing that I've been learning about structure. So when you have your root folder, right, it's okay to have all of these files lingering outside without having an actual folder within the root folder that contains them. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna depend on the on your context.
Okay.
But if it's not like a big
So
project,
if it's
where
like 1 page, 2 pages, it should be okay. It's like when you're getting into bigger projects that it's.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, but yeah, let's just like try to understand the flow of what I'm showing, and then it's gonna be totally fine once you get it working. Like open the folder, apply what I'm showing right now. Okay, so we have the app.js with JavaScript. So we're going to start adding the behavior, right? Because right now, all it does, does not do anything actually. And if I click here, it does not do anything either. So the first step to do is we gotta identify query for that button. How do we do that? So let me add that here. So let's add a variable. This is going to be like a switcher. And then JavaScript gives you some built-in query selector. I'm going to query for that button. So remember that here I added this little class btn. We're going to query this button using this class. Now we got the button. What can we do to this button? We can add like a event listener. So remember when I say that JavaScript, it's pretty event, it's an event-based programming language. So we're gonna be listening to what the button is doing. So I'm gonna add an event listener. And then the event, it's the click. So basically what I showed here, the event's gonna be click. That's what I want, right? So like, this is what I want. And then for the once so that means when you click on the button, you should do this. You get the background, so the body. We're gonna toggle the theme, right? This is referring to the CSS. So like here, the CSS is what the looks should like. So if we go to the content, the main content starts with light color, right? The light theme. The light theme, it's green background. We want the dark theme, which is black. So this is gonna toggle between the correct theme. So now class name, and then let's check if the class name so if the class name is equals light theme, we want that button name to switch from darker from light to dark, right? So text, context. And then else, what I'm doing here, it's very fine. Oh, the content's light. So this button here should be dark. If the content is dark, this button here should be light. So let's refresh that page and see what happens now that I added this event listener. Oh, it's working. Oh, so basically what I did, I added an event to the button. When the user clicks, it's been listening. So the event, there's an event listener. which is paying attention to that button. It's like, oh, the button is being clicked, so do this. So it's basically just changing the toggling between the theme color, and then it changes the color, the text for the button. Now we have one more task, right? Oh, so we finished that task, which is enable switching the theme, but we cannot even check mark this. Let's add this new behavior here. How do we do that? Same thing. We query for that specific item. So let's see here. Const to do first selector. Let's use this here to do. Oops. This is not going to do anything with this one because the class for this does not exist. So if we want to query for that, we got to refer to this line somewhere, right? So now that we queried the to-do, we can add a listener just like we did for this one. Same thing for click. So it's when that item's clicked, then do something. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna toggle, sorry. To do class list toggle, then if the task, if the to-do style text decoration. So a lot of those things I usually learn by researching, because we don't need to know all those syntaxes by like decorate that. We can just search online. So basically what I'm doing here, if this item has this little line here, we remove it when you click it. If it does not have, when you click it, it put it back. So this is basically what I'm doing right now. So I'm checking. Oh, does it have that? If not, then none. Else. Let's see what this does, if it's working now. Oh, working. And with that, we finished. Oh, it's actually not working. Do you see when I click it back? This one is not quite removing that. So you see when I click it, we want this, it goes away. Let's see why it's not working. So I see that the list is working here, but the other one is not. So let me see here. That's interesting. So I'm getting the to do. When I click it, I toggle. So it has so basically this list here, that can be that. Oops, not. Yeah, because I think to do style, no. Maybe, oh, not the text content, because see, that's the thing with copying and paste. Check what I'm changing, what part of this style I'm changing. I'm changing the text content. The text content is just for the button. For this one, we actually want to change the text decoration. So, yeah, that's what happens when you copy and paste. And how it works. And with that we added a behavior to our page. Now when we click it, it turns on, turns off. And then here, it's enable the switch in the team. Yeah, so basically like when you open Twitter, I think if you have a Twitter, if you like go to the profile account, you can, a lot of apps, not only a lot of websites, apps, you have the dark mode available. So that's pretty much it. Can you explain the layers so that, oh, also now feel free to throw your questions, because this is the hands-on part. Now I'm open for you, ask questions, and I can answer as much as I can. Can you explain the layers so that we can understand the CSS? Yeah, the CSS loop works with the JavaScript behavior for sure. So this is the content page, right? The content page, we have access to the CSS. That's how we're connecting to the CSS, and that's how we're connecting to the JavaScript. The CSS is the looks. The the JS here, it's for the behavior, for the JavaScript, right? So how JavaScript it's changing the color. So let's go to the page. I'm going to inspect the page. If I go to elements here, so do you see when I click here, and this is the code, the actual code. The code here, like if I click in here, it points to the right place on the pages. The items, 1, 2, 3. So in CSS, you have those classes. So basically here for the body is the whole thing. That's why everything is selected. So the body has the whole thing. And then I have the class lighting, right? So that body has the lighting. When I go to the CS file, lighting, I specify what I want out of it. So like I could change this to red. Let's add the red. I don't know how is red in HTML. Red Xcode. It is red. So over there, instead of green, if we want red, we can just switch this to red here. Yay, it does not look that great with red. It's not that light, but yeah, that's how the HTML and the CSS work. Now, how does JavaScript control that? So JavaScript has a few methods. So this one here, toggle. So toggle is just like you're toggling, right? The literal word in English. So for the dark theme, I want to toggle whatever is in a class of the body. So this is the body. I want to toggle whatever is in this content here with something else. So it basically switches the light theme with the dark theme. Does it make sense? I think Brit. Oops.
Yes, it does make sense. I was just kind of thinking about like when you're creating a form and how you want that JavaScript to pull information off the form that you create, like I don't know, a menu, or when you're filling out something for specifications or an order or something like that. It's just something I was working on for my CSS HTML class, that I was trying to understand how the extension of Java goes into creating something like a form that you create for a web page, or maybe a mailing list or something.
Oh, you were trying to change the color or change the layout of the CSS or something. So like by example, one example is, let's say you click on a field and you want, do you know when like you don't fill out the field correctly, it gives you a little message, a red message like, hey, you should fill out this field. So you can definitely do a similar thing with JavaScript using that, and then changing the color of the message on a form. It's pretty much the same concept.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Thank you.
You got it. And with that, I am finished here. I hope you all liked. It was pretty simple, but I think it's gonna give you some taste of how JavaScript works. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Samantha, for that. That was such an insightful workshop. I know that there's a lot of technical challenges that come with virtual instruction, but I hope some of you ladies were able to follow along. And just to finish up here, for some of you that may or may not know, you can become a member today, so it's free. So we can drop a link here in the chat for you guys to become a member. So if you're not sure if you are, if you're not, if you're not sure if you've signed up before, it just takes a few minutes just to gather some information and for you to officially join our community. Also, there are other ways to support Latina Geeks. So thank you again for coming to this event. That's one way to support us. And there are other ways to support us on our website. And if you work for a company or an organization that would like to sponsor our next event, please contact Lala Castro at lala@latinageeks.org or any of us at today's event. So thank you again to Intuit and Samantha for being very patient with us and being a great instructor. So have a great night, everybody. We hope to see you at our next event.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.